Great to see you all, and thank you for that very warm introduction. But I know I'm just the warm-up act for my boss, so I know we're all excited. It's a great day, and I'm so glad that you'll have a chance to hear directly from him. I wanted to thank all of you for your service to the nation, and also thank you for your service to your fellow veterans and to families. The American Legion just does fantastic work. And it's really, you should feel so proud of your leadership. Your National Commander, Charles Schmidt, of course, you know how great he is. But you have really terrific leadership in Verna Jones and Lou Celli and Dan Wheeler, and it's just an amazing organization, and I love working with the American Legion. What I always like to do is I like to start with our mission, because really that's why I'm here and that's why the people in VA are here, and I know you share this goal as well. But as President Lincoln said, we really have an obligation as a country to do right by those who have stood up to serve our country, and we take this mission very seriously. And we couldn't do this without our veteran service organizations. The American Legion has just been such a terrific partner in everything that we do. This year, we've had 5 pieces of major legislation. Of course, the 5th is going to be witnessed by all of you in about an hour as the President signs that piece of legislation on appeals modernization. But thanks to the American Legion and our other veteran service organizations, we've been able to get things done that haven't been done in a long time. The GI Bill, which we did last week, the Accountability Act, the choice legislation, and just so many important things. So we're really excited and want to thank all of you for being there every step along the way to support us. One of the first things that I did as secretary was to come out and to talk about what the problems are in the VA. And I think everybody knows the VA has gone through some difficult times in the past couple of years. And if you don't talk about the problems, I don't know how you can begin to start finding solutions and how you can actually ask people for help to help you find those solutions. So, the state of the VA. And in the state of the VA, I talked about 13 areas that if we don't address the problems and we don't begin to fix these types of issues, that we're not really going to have the type of VA that we all know and believe needs to be there for our veterans. And so I'm not going to go through all these 13 areas, but I want you to understand that this is our strategy. There are problems, we're going to talk about them, and we're going to keep talking about them until we find solutions and to work together to do that. I do believe that we are moving in the right direction in the VA, that while we have a lot of work to do, that we have to address, we are making progress. We're scheduling more appointments now than ever before at any point in time in the VA history. We've seen over a 40% increase in the amount of veterans that we're able to get out into the community to be able to make sure that they're not waiting for their care. Our wait times have been reduced significantly, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. We've seen an improvement in the quality of care. 82% of our VAs made significant improvements in quality from this time to when we saw that a year ago. And when we ask veterans whether we're doing better, they're actually saying that we're doing better, and they're beginning to trust us much more than just even a few years ago. If you ask veterans directly, and you don't go through all these formal surveys, but you actually just see what people are saying, we're seeing some evidence that people are saying that we're doing a better job. Here on Yelp, which, as you know, veterans go right online and rate their experience, you can see that veterans rate their experience in VA hospitals actually higher than patients rate their experience in the private sector. And while, again, we have a long way to go till we're going to be satisfied, this is an indication that we're doing some things better and that we're moving in the right direction. What I'd like to do in a very brief period of time is talk to you about the 5 priorities that I have to really transform the VA, to get it to be the type of organization that we all know that it can be. And these are the 5 things that I believe we have to focus on to get us there. So I'm going to take you through it. The very first is to give you, veterans, greater choice in your decision making. I think that's fundamentally important. It's our primary strategy on how we're going to make the VA a better place, by making it more competitive. When people want to get services from you, that makes you perform better, and it makes you stay on top of your game. So our major legislative requirement going forward that we're going to work on this fall is to get the choice program working in a way that works better for you, takes out the red tape, takes out the complexity, and changes it from a system based on administrative rules to a system that functions in a clinical way, the way that health systems should function. So that will give veterans greater choice over their care. We're going to eliminate the 40-mile, 30-day requirement. That just doesn't make sense for people who want to get health care. And we're going to add a new benefit for walk-in clinics so that people who live a distance away from the VAs don't have to drive 50 miles or 100 miles to get a flu shot or a chest x-ray or a lab test. So this is all about giving veterans more choice in their decision making and making the VA work better for them by working with a stronger VA and with community partners. The second of our priorities is to really modernize the VA. And for too long, I think we've neglected modernizing the VA. And so you're going to see a number of decisions that I'm going to be announcing to modernize this system, because I believe veterans deserve the very best that this country can offer. The first of those decisions that you may have seen is I've announced that we're going to be replacing our information technology system, our electronic medical record, with the same system that the Department of Defense uses. This is a commercial, top-notch, off-the-shelf system, and it just makes sense. We know where all of our customers are going to come from, one place, the Department of Defense. And why should we lose all the information that we have on veterans when they come to work when they come over to the VA? So we're working hard to get that implemented and working with Congress to get the funds appropriated. We also are going to be updating our facilities, and too many of our facilities are getting old and in disrepair. So I've announced that we're going to be disposing of 1,100 facilities that are vacant or underutilized and reinvesting those resources that we're spending back into facilities that veterans are being cared for in right now. And that will allow us to rebuild and to modernize our VA. If you take a look at some of our facilities, we actually have over 400 facilities from the Civil War and the Revolutionary War. And these are old buildings. On the other hand, you can see at the bottom right, we have some of the best facilities in the country. This is our Palo Alto VA. All single rooms, places where families can stay with their veterans. Really beautiful. I want all of our facilities to be able to look like that, and so we're now heading in that direction. Thank you. The third of our 5th priorities is to improve the timeliness of our services. We all know about the wait time crisis that happened in Phoenix in 2014. That can never happen again. And we're working hard to make sure that no veteran with an urgent clinical need ever has to wait for care. And we're improving our wait times. We're going to talk about that. We have to also improve our timeliness of appeals. You're going to see that today when the President signs this bill. This is legislation that was last updated in the 1930s. And if we don't fix this, and that's why the President's going to sign this today, we won't be able to get faster decisions to veterans on their appeals, and we just have to do that, and we have to do better. And our disability claims, I'm going to talk about how we have to do better on our timeliness of disability decisions as well. So on our wait times, what you may now know is that the VA is the only health system in the country that publishes its wait times in a public way for everyone to see. So if you want to see what your wait time is at your local VA, it's available on our website. And by doing that, we're showing people where our problems are, where we fix the problems, and how we're going to continue to make progress, because we update it every week. And we're focused on this, and we're going to continue to share our results as we make progress with you and the areas where we continue to struggle. So this is an example of how you can put in your zip code, what type of medical care you're looking to get, and you can see your wait time for new appointments and for return appointments. We've also worked hard to get same-day services in every one of our 168 major VA medical centers for primary care and mental health. So if you have an urgent clinical need, you will get it taken care of that day in our medical centers. And we're going to be working to expand this to every one of our outpatient centers by the end of this year as well. In areas that we don't have enough healthcare professionals or the expertise, we are using telehealth. No other system in the country uses telehealth the way that the VA does. Over 700,000 veterans last year got their care through telehealth. You'll see here the President and I demonstrating new capabilities that we're introducing to allow telehealth to be available to you on your home computers, on your mobile phones, and we're continuing to push technology in a way that we believe will serve our veterans better and make care more accessible. I talked about disability claims. You may remember a couple years ago we had 611,000 disability claims that were waiting greater than 125 days for decisions. Today we're at about 90,000, and that's still too many. Next month, this September, we're going to be announcing a new way of using our disability system called a decision-ready claim to get veterans a decision in 30 days or less. And so you're going to be seeing us, thank you. This is part of our commitment to you to improve the timeliness of our services. And there we have our decision-ready claims. And appeals modernization, you can see over 400,000 appeals pending. Today, it will take a veteran, if they filed a claim, 6 years to get a decision. That's unacceptable. That's why you're going to see the President sign this new law today, so we can fix that as well. Now, the fourth of the fifth priorities is to actually focus our resources on things that matter more for veterans, to really double down on the things that you rely on that make a difference. So when we talk about strengthening foundational services, there are things that if there wasn't a VA, they just don't exist in the private sector in the way that they need to for veterans. We're talking about care for PTSD, for traumatic brain injury, for blind rehabilitation, for spinal cord injury, for prosthetics and orthotics, for military exposures, environmental exposures, and the list goes on about things that we know really make a difference that VA has the expertise in that doesn't exist in the private sector. So we're actually moving more money into those programs. We're doubling down on those strategies to really build world-class services across the country for things that matter to our veterans. You're also going to see we're going to work much closer with the Department of Defense. I talked about the IT systems coming together. Secretary Mattis and I have a commitment to really making sure that we're using our resources together in a way that makes sense for taxpayers, veterans, and active service members. And we have a lot more opportunity to work closer together, so stay tuned for some announcements that we're going to make about that. And last, we have to focus our resources by making sure we have the right people in the VA that need to be in the VA. And what I wanted to talk about was something that we've been hearing from all of you. Making difficult decisions about who gets to work in the VA is tough. And so as it says here, dealing with issues, employee issues, can be difficult, but not dealing with them can be worse. And we have experienced that over the past number of years. So we no longer are going to tolerate employees that don't share the values that we all share, who believe it's an honor and privilege to be able to serve our veterans. And we're moving those people out of the VA because they've lost their right to be able to work in the VA. Now, once again, we're committed to sharing our progress. So we publish, we're the only federal agency that publishes their disciplinary actions, who they fired, on a public website that we update every week. Since January 20th of this year, when the President took over, we have removed over 500 employees from the VA who have lost the right to be able to serve our veterans. And we will continue to make sure that everybody understands that we're taking this very seriously, and that we're also looking to hire the very best that are out there to be able to come into the VA and to be able to serve the country. The fifth and final priority, and the only priority that I talk about that's a clinical priority, is to reduce veteran suicides. This is really a public health crisis. Now, this is a crisis across America. Suicides in the general population have been increasing at alarming rates, but among veterans, even more concerning and even more serious. So you can see that while civilian suicides have gone up in the last 14 years by 23.9%, among veterans it's gone up 31%. And you can see at the bottom line that for females that this has really gone up even more considerably. So that's of significant concern. Now, what we can see here is that if veterans are connected with the right care and getting help, that it makes a difference, it saves lives. For veterans that have been seen in the VA or getting their care in the VA, while suicide rates have gone up by 5.4% over the last 14 years, for veterans that did not get their care in the VA, it went up 38.4%. And take a look for women veterans, the very bottom line. Women that were getting care in the VA actually saw a decrease of 2.4% over the last 14 years, but women that were not getting care in the VA up 81.6%. So we recognize that not everybody's going to be able to get care in the VA. So we're working with community partners to make sure they understand how we can help get connected with veterans and the community. But for all of you who are out there, and if you see somebody who's isolated and needs help, please know that that's why we're here. We want you to connect them with the VA. This is really going to make a difference and save lives. We've developed new tools called predictive modeling, where we can actually predict those that may be at highest risk. And we're not waiting until people take action. We're actually contacting them ahead of time and bringing them in and seeing if there's a way that we can help. And this is a tool that no one else in the country is using but VA, and we're working with the Department of Defense. Our Veterans Crisis Line earlier this year, so many people were calling, we weren't getting the 30% of the calls. That's unacceptable. We've hired 280 new Veterans Crisis Line responders. We've opened up new centers across the country. Today, less than 1% of people aren't getting through. So the Veterans Crisis Line, which is open 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, is available. One of the first decisions I made, knowing that veteran suicide reduction is a priority, is I used my authority to make sure that those that were other than honorably discharged, not dishonorably discharged, other than honorably discharged, as you know, many times for behavioral health issues, aren't out there without a place to get care, because we see a very high suicide rate among those that are other than honorably. So I'm pleased to say that today, the VA will provide mental health services for those that are other than honorably discharged. We are not going to leave any of these veterans without care. The other area that we're making great progress is reducing veteran homelessness, a 46% reduction over the last 5 years. We still have much more work to do, but we're not going to stop working at this till we make sure that there are no homeless veterans. And we're working with communities across the country and one by one beginning to eliminate veterans' homelessness from communities. We're also working to make sure that when people leave the service that they get jobs and they get good jobs. And now I'm pleased to say that while veteran unemployment 5 years ago was above 11%, today it's 3.6% lower than the general population. And the reason is employers know that the very best employees that they can get are veterans. These are the leaders in the community. They make great employees, and they're really extremely valuable to our employers. So we have a commitment now to hire 1 million veterans from our employers. We've just reached above the 600,000 mark, and we'll continue to work at this to make sure every veteran has a great job. And finally, as we get ready to hear from our president, I can't tell you how grateful I am for his commitment to making sure that we can fulfill our mission. The president's budget that he proposed this year is a strong budget for VA. It provides us with extra resources to strengthen the VA. It provides us with extra funding for mental health services, for women's health services, and the areas that we need. So we have to make sure that Congress supports this budget because it allows us to fulfill our mission. For those who think that just because we want to work more with the community, that's privatization, absolutely not. It is essential that we have a strong VA. It's essential to our veterans. It's essential to the country. It's essential to national security. When somebody raises their hand to go and defend their country, they have to know that when they come back, that there's somebody there who has their back for the rest of their lives. And that is our mission, and that's our commitment, and we will never let this system be privatized. So I just want to end by thanking you again. We couldn't be doing our work without the American Legion, without all of our Veteran Service Organization partners. We're working together, very aligned with the same goals. We're making progress. We continue to push ahead to make the progress that all of you want to see happen, and I thank you for everything you're doing. I appreciate the time with you today. Thank you very much.